Hello guys, and welcome to my top 10 best Batman the Animated Series episodes. But before we begin, here is some backstory for you all. Batman the Animated Series was revolutionary when it came out. It set the bar for how Batman is supposed to be. Even though Batman has had several iterations over the years, no one has come as close to the comics and yet still stayed fresh and new as the animated series. Keaton's was dark and gothic, while Bale was more grounded in reality. And George Clooney was George Clooney. The same can be said for Batman's arch nemesis, the Joker. Cesar Romero was the silly clown, Jack Nicholson was the creepy gangster, Heath Ledger was the terrifying anarchist, but Mark Hamill is the Joker. He encompasses everything the character is supposed to be, and without getting stuck on this part, because trust me, I can talk about Mark Hamill for hours on end, he was born to play the Joker. I will exclude episodes like Mad Love and Over the Edge, since those are part of the 4th season, also known as the New Batman Adventures. The 4th season is a bit different from the other 3, since almost all of the characters went through a redesign. It still followed the same storyline, but the characters were changed up a bit. Batman went from this to this. Okay, I guess. Batgirl went from this to this. Again, okay, I guess. It looks good. And the Joker went from this to this. He has been deprived of all the color in his face when he is supposed to be the cheerful clown. Thank God they changed him back in the Justice League show and in Static Shock.
No, what the heck, I'll laugh anyway.
The 4th season still had many great episodes, but the changes were very controversial nonetheless. As the old saying goes, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Well, now that you understand what a true masterpiece of a show this is, let's count down the top 10 episodes of Batman the Animated Series. The Man Who Killed the Batman, the 23rd episode in the 2nd season. This is one of the hidden gems of this show. It's about a little twit called Sid who strives to become one of the most feared criminals in Gotham. He thinks that he will get the attention he was denied when he was a kid. Well, he soon finds out that he is in way over his head when an accidental explosion seemingly kills Batman. Sid, now going under the nickname The Squid, is believed to be the man who killed the Batman. And he is now the most feared criminal in Gotham. But this fame comes at a big price. Other gangsters start challenging him to fights, and some even try to murder him. Then the Joker shows up.
There's a certain rhythm to these things. I cause trouble, he shows up. We have some laughs and the game starts all over again. Without Batman, crime has no punchline.
Thinking there is no more fun to be had with Batman, he throws a funeral for him. He keeps in character during the whole ceremony.
It's time to look ahead to a future filled with smiles. Just as soon as we take that man there and slap him in that box there and roll it into that vat of acid there.
The episode depicts perfectly how a person is affected by too much fame at the wrong time. Birds of a Feather, the 19th episode of the 2nd season. Another often overlooked episode. What this show really got right is the way they handled all the villains. You even start to feel a little sympathetic to some of them. For this episode it was Oswald Cobblepot, aka the Penguin's turn. He's one of the more sophisticated characters in Batman's Rogues Gallery, with one of the best theme songs in the show. So, it only made sense to center an episode around him. After another one of his heist attempts is thwarted by Batman, he vows to never turn to crime again once he makes parole. Once he gets out, he finds out that no one is waiting for him and he's having trouble to blend in. Meanwhile, a high-class woman named Veronica wants to go on a date with the Penguin to boost her recognition. So, she is just in it to get attention from other rich people, while Penguin on the other hand starts to fall in love for her, even saving her from a few thugs. After that, the Penguin overhears Veronica talk to her associate about dating the Penguin. This breaks his heart and causes him to turn to his villainous ways again. What really shines in this episode is how close the Penguin actually was from reforming. It exposed his humanity a little bit, since his character is often mocked for his distinct lack of humanity, both in appearance and demeanor. Robin's Reckoning, the third and fourth episodes from the second season. These two-part episodes dig deep into the relationship between Batman and Robin. During a regular night stakeout, the dynamic duo spots a crooked deal going down and they decide to intervene. After the fight has settled, Batman interrogates one of the thugs and a name is dropped, Billy Marin. After that, Robin makes some research on Billy Marin and finds out that his real name is Tony Zuko, the man who murdered Robin's parents. The rest of the episode is flashbacks to Robin's childhood at the circus and how he met Bruce Wayne and found out he is Batman. The second part of the episode focuses on Robin's detective skills in his hunt for Tony Zuko. In the end, it's about trust, partnership, and of course, reckoning. What's really cool is who they got to do the voice for Tony Zuko. Let me give you a clue.
That's so, birdie boy.
Still don't know?
Hello? Hello? Anybody home? Hey, think but fly. Think.
It's Thomas F. Wilson, the guy who played Biff Tannen in Back to the Future. It's a nice small touch that is definitely the icing on the oh-so awesome cake. Beware the Grey Ghost. This is the 18th episode of the first season, and is actually one of the episodes that introduced me to the show. The plot follows a series of bombings that start happening in and around Gotham City. Batman discovers a pattern between the attacks. They all seem to target the same locations as a villain from a TV show he used to watch as a kid, named The Grey Ghost. He then seeks out the actor who played the Ghost and asks him how the bombs were delivered to its targets in the show, since they are probably being delivered in the same way for real. The actor, Simon Trent, is down on his luck and can't seem to get another acting job due to his role as the Grey Ghost over a decade ago. Three major things shine in this particular episode. 1. The dramatic downside of both having as well as losing fame. 2. A series of bright tone flashbacks to Bruce Wayne's childhood. And 3. The voice actor for Simon Trent, aka the Grey Ghost, is none other than Adam West himself. Rest in peace.
Like you said, you need my help.
This brings up a lot of depth to the table, since the story centers around an old television show that Bruce used to watch as a kid, which is very similar to how many viewers, myself included, used to watch Adam West as Batman, and now watch as the modern Batman. It's a perfect passing of the torch kind of thing, and I love it.
As a kid, I used to watch you with my father. The Grey Ghost was my hero.
Perchance to Dream, the second episode of the second season. Bruce wakes up one morning to find out that the death of his parents and his life as Batman has been a dream all along. His parents are therefore alive, and he is even engaged to Selina Kyle, which is Catwoman in his supposed dream. And someone else is even taken up the mantle as Batman. His life is now more or less perfect, but he soon finds out that some things are off. No matter how much he wants to accept that this is all real, he can't. He starts to question his own sanity, and it eventually leads him to a showdown between him and his alter ego Batman. What made this episode stand out to me is how Bruce longed for a normal life, and what his life could have been had his parents not been murdered that tragic night. As he even starts to accept what is going on, but towards the end realizes that Gotham will always need the Batman. TwoFace, the 10th and 11th episodes of the first season. Harvey Dent is a well-established character at this point in the series. He is a close friend to Bruce Wayne and is often seen helping Commissioner Gordon with police work, etc, etc, so he's not just a completely new guy that just happened to suddenly show up. This is two of the darker episodes in the show. During the first part, we get to see some of the nasty demons Harvey is having. He suffers from a split personality disorder. He can go from calm and collected to a raging psychopath who launches out at random. Towards the end of the first part, an explosion permanently scars half of his body, thus losing half of himself to the other personality. The second part takes place a few months after Harvey, now known as TwoFace, woke up from the hospital. He has now assembled a criminal gang and has become obsessed with duality and opposites. His obsession even shows in his clothing, which are composed of two halves. At all times he carries a double-sided coin, which he constantly flips to make any important choices. Heads would usually result in a crime, but tails would allow Two-Face to do the right thing, such as returning acquired loot or refraining from a murder. Batman feels guilt, since he couldn't save his friend, much like he couldn't save his parents. The rest of the episode gives the viewer a sense of Harvey's descent into madness, and hope for his redemption, if there is any. Baby Doll, the 20th episode of the 3rd season. A bunch of back-in-the-day celebrities start to disappear, and Batman makes the connection that they all used to be in an old sitcom called Baby Doll. The actress who played Baby Doll was diagnosed with a rare disease that keeps her from growing taller.
She was born with systemic hypoplasia, a rare condition that kept her from aging.
Would you believe she was 20 years old in that clip?
She's a 30-year-old woman trapped in the body of a toddler. This ruined her acting career, and she has become hateful and longs to escape back into the world of Baby Doll, where she will live happily ever after with her family.
Mary Doll? Is this a joke? No, sillies. I'm Baby, member. Together again, forever and ever.
So, she kidnaps the rest of the actors to try and make believe forever. It really brings up what it means to make mistakes in life and adjusting to said mistakes. It's the third act that really stands out as very heartbreaking.
I didn't mean to.
Heart of Ice. It is the 14th episode in the 1st season. During the older incarnations of Batman, Mr. Freeze was just a villain with a cool gimmick. He invented a gun that can instantly freeze wherever he chooses.
No guns!
Which he used to commit crimes. A very cool villain indeed, no pun intended. But it was the animated series that changed the way the world looked at Mr. Freeze by giving him a much more darker backstory. In fact, this was done so well that everybody uses it now. This is now canon. His origin is now canon. Even Joel Schumacher used his origin for his movie. Well, in his new backstory we found out that Victor Freeze was a genius scientist who was trying to find a cure for his terminally ill wife, who he has frozen down to keep her from dying until he can find a cure. But the head of GothCorp, Ferris Boyle, comes in to stop the experiment because evil corporate bastard reasons. During all the ruckus, Victor gets knocked into the chemicals he uses to keep his wife in cryo. Victor must then construct a freeze suit to keep his body in a sub-zero temperature, since he can't survive otherwise. He sets out for revenge against Ferris Boyle and the rest of GothCorp who ruined his life. This took a plain villain from a past era and turned him into Shakespearean tragedy. What's not to like?
To never again walk on a summer's day with a hot wind in your face and a warm hand to hold. Oh yes, I'd kill for that.
Trial, the 12th episode of the 3rd season. Is Batman doing more harm than good? Well, in this episode, all the villains take over Arkham to hold a trial to find out. They capture Batman with the intent on putting him on a trial for driving them to commit crimes. With Two-Face as the prosecutor and the freaking Joker as the judge, they bring up some fairly good points on why Batman might cause a lot of the misery in Gotham. This episode is so cool because we get to see so many of the villains play off each other in the same room. All of those great characters with those enjoyable personalities in one episode. You count me in, Slick.
That's all, folks.
Almost Godom, the 18th episode of the 2nd season. This episode is pure fucking gold. The Joker, the Penguin, Poison Ivy, Two-Face and Croc are all sitting down and playing poker together. They all start to argue which one of them has come the closest to killing Batman.
I've come the closest.
Are you kidding? I was the one who nearly...
Nobody's come closer to snuffing the Batman than me.
The fact of the matter is we each have an almost Godom Batman story. I know mine's the best, but let's hear yours anyway.
I will reuse my previous point from the trial episode. These villains are free to play off each other, and it's just wonderful to watch.
Half of me wants to strangle you.
And what does the other half want?
To hit you with a truck.
We used to date.
The main difference is that in the trial episode the villains had a goal in mind, to trial Batman. Here they're just chilling out, and they talk, like normal people. Well, maybe not like normal people, but you get the point. What makes Batman great comes from him as well as his villains. Making an episode dedicated to just the villains was a great way to make them stand out as more identifiable, thus making Batman's encounter with them so much more enjoyable. And that is why Almost Godom is definitely the best Batman the Animated Series episode. So, that concludes the list. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time. Vortex out.